Deshaun would be the first to tell you as we integrate him into our organization and the Cleveland community. But we do have faith that, Deshaun will not only meet the expectations that we have of any player who we bring into the organization, but exceed them. And we are looking forward to having Deshaun as our starting quarterback for hopefully a long period of time. So with that, I'll pass it to Kevin.
Just to echo what Andrew said, this organization did a tremendous amount of work on Deshaun the person, a tremendous amount of background. I understand the concerns completely. I understand the question.
Just quickly, I wanted to tell you who's speaking. That was Andrew Berry, the general manager of the Browns. Currently speaking is Kevin Stefanski, their head coach.
We put in. I have confidence in the extensive work that our group put in to understand Deshaun. I'm really looking forward to coaching Deshaun. I know he's ready to get to work, and I'm looking forward to him being around his teammates. And really, I'm looking forward to him making a very positive impact in this community. And with that, I'll turn it over to Deshaun.
Yes, first I want to say thank you to Dee and Jimmy Haslam and the Haslam family for giving me this awesome opportunity to be the quarterback of this historical organization in the Cleveland Browns. I want to thank AB and Coach Kevin for also giving me the opportunity to come here to join this organization, join this locker room, to lead these guys and be a servant leader. And then another opportunity for, this organization, for me to come in here and have the opportunity to show this community, show this city, show this organization, show this locker room who the person I really am. And that's the main focus that I want to do, is continue to show people who I really am and get my story out eventually.
We'll start with you. Tom Withers, Associated Press. Deshaun, there are a lot of, as Andrew and Kevin mentioned, there are a lot of people that are very conflicted over your arrival here. They've read the sexual allegations, they've seen the lawsuits. What do you want people to know about you as a person? Who are you? We know about you as a player. Who are you as a person?
The biggest thing for me is, as a person, I'm genuine. I'm hardworking, servant leader, who loves to be social in the community, who loves to give back, very kind of team-oriented. So I love hanging out with my teammates. But also, I want to be able to show that eventually and get out into the community. I've always been hands-on in the community of Houston, back home in Gainesville, back home in Clemson. And that's what I want to do, is be able to get back to that brand, or get back to that person that people knew I was before all these allegations.
Jake Trotter.
Yeah, Andrew, just to be clear, nobody from the Browns or representing the Browns spoke to any of the 22 women who've made allegations, correct?
Like I mentioned earlier in my opening statement, Jake, our attorneys advise us that reaching out directly could be considered interfering with a criminal investigation. But that's the reason that we did hire independent investigators, to make sure that we could get that comprehensive and holistic perspective.
So you say the investigators you hired did speak to the women?
I'll say the investigators that we hired were able to get a full perspective of all the cases. Yes.
Not speak to them.
I'm going to say full perspective of all the cases. I'm not going to go into necessarily the details of everything the investigators did, but they got full perspective for all the criminal and civil cases, Jake.
So if they did not speak to the women, what is the basis for calling your investigation extensive, as you put it in your statement, on Sunday? And also given the fact some of the women haven't given sworn testimony yet. Mm-hmm. They don't have anything on the record.
Yeah, so again, Jake, I'll refer back to my statement. The independent and unbiased investigators were able to be comprehensive in all the information that they were able to bring forth. Some of the information, quite honestly, I understand can't necessarily be public, but we do feel good about the work that we did. We feel good about the work that the investigators did for us. We got a comprehensive perspective on all the cases.
Doug Maurice.
Andrew, when you were investigating the situation with Deshaun, how much were you looking into whether the acts were criminal, or whether the acts, whether or not they were criminal, did not rise to the standard of player conduct that you would expect from a player?
Yeah, both things were considered in the work that we did, Doug.
Did you come to a conclusion?
So Deshaun Watson is currently having a press conference. Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, if you're just joining us, he's being introduced as the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns.
You would expect, or did you reach the conclusion that that won't happen again or anymore now that he's a Cleveland Brown?
I'll go back to, we felt good about everything that we collected. We felt good about Deshaun as a person. We felt good about what we learned about the cases, Doug, that to a point where we felt comfortable pursuing the trade and bringing him into the building. And if we didn't, like in terms of what happened or moving forward, we wouldn't have made the trade.
Tony?
Deshaun, one of the reasons you're here is because you asked to be traded from Houston. Why did you ask? Why did you want out of Houston?
The biggest thing was, I think at the time, we just both were going in different directions. And so for me to be able to accomplish the things that I want to do, we started off doing it privately with my agency, and then it led to, the whole big situation. But yeah, it was a time for both of us to kind of part ways.
A couple months after they had given you a new contract, so what triggered your change of sentiment?
I think for this circumstance in this situation, it's hard to get too far into the details. But yeah, it was just like I said before, it was just a time for both of us to part ways. I know that previously the contract was given to me that summer, but at the same time, I was honest and straightforward with the organization. They were honest with me, and we came to the conclusion that this was the best situation.
Dan Lobby?
Deshaun, I think as details have come out, some people have wondered why you've used the number of massage therapists that you've used. Can you kind of explain that number?
Yeah, I can't get too far into detail because there's an ongoing investigation still. But I can say that with this now day and age, especially with my age group, social media is a big business part that goes into it. So that's, a factor into it. But as far as the details, I can't get too far into it because there's an investigation going on. But hopefully, once everything is resolved, I can speak freely on it.
Are you kind of reevaluating your methods or how many you use or how you find people?
Definitely. This is something that with my team and now with the Cleveland Browns and the organization, we find a plan and move forward from it.
Mary Kay?
Yeah, Deshaun, what can you say to Browns fans and to the people of Cleveland to convince them that you're not the person that is described in these complaints and suits? And do you sort of understand why it can be hard for people to, believe that right now, given the sheer numbers involved?
No, definitely. I understand the whole circumstances is very difficult, especially for the women's side of the fans in this community. I'm not naive to that. I know these allegations is very, very serious. But like I've mentioned before, I've never assaulted any woman. I never disrespected any woman. I was raised by a single-parent mom who has two aunties who's her sister, and that's who raised me. I was raised to be genuine and respect everyone and everything around me. So I've always defended that, and I will continue to stand on that. And I just want the opportunity to be able to show who I really am in the community and be hands-on and help people and serve other people.
Andrew, I was just wondering, why did you think Deshaun was worth the risk of a groundbreaking contract, especially with the uncertainty of, possible NFL action, and just what convinced you that, how risky do you feel this is?
Yeah, Marla, it's a good question. For us, once we got comfortable with Deshaun as a person, Deshaun the person, it became pretty straightforward from a football perspective. We think he's one of the best players at the position in the sport. He's obviously in his prime, and we think it's the most important position in the sport. So once we were able to get comfortable with him as a person, the football part in terms of evaluation was pretty easy.
Deshaun, you originally turned down the Browns, and then you flipped and went back to the Browns. How much of that had to just do with the contract?
Actually, it had nothing to do with the contract. I didn't know about the contract until I told my agent that I wanted to come and be a Cleveland Brown. That was secondary. That was after the fact that we spoke on the phone with AB and Kevin and the Haslam family. So that had nothing to do with me choosing the Cleveland Browns.
Why did you originally turn them down?
It wasn't necessarily a turn down. I think the media was kind of rushing me to make a decision, and I wasn't comfortable with making that right decision. And so the news get out and things like that. But, for me, I knew that Cleveland was the best situation for a football standpoint and just for a community and family atmosphere. And these guys mentioned it before. Once I got to meet these guys that sit up here, Coach Kevin, the AB, and the Haslam family, it was just that connection that we just had that bond. And I knew that this was the perfect situation for me to have a fresh start, go win some Super Bowls, and move forward and build this community as what we want to build it as.
Darryl Rodgers? Yeah, Deshaun, this is something that is going to stick with you for a long time, this perception. How do you repair your image? How do you restore your name?
No, I understand that, and I know that there's going to be a stain that's probably going to stick with me for a while, but all I can do is keep moving forward and continue to show the person that I am, the true character, the true person, the true human being I am. Like I said before, I've never done the things that these people are alleging, and I'm going to continue to fight for my name and clear my name, and like I've been doing, just cooperate with everything that comes with it and just keep moving forward. And then as far as the job and what I need to do on the football side is to lead this team, help this team win multiple games and Super Bowls. And that's my job, is to continue to put all that together and work with the Cleveland Browns and, just keep pushing forward.
You're listening to the first public comments by Deshaun Watson in more than a year, now being introduced as the Browns quarterback.
Or I should say, when did you feel comfortable that Deshaun was the guy you wanted to bring in to be the face of this franchise?
Yeah, Darryl, I don't know that I can pinpoint a specific moment, but it was a long process. Like I mentioned, it was a 5-month odyssey, and I don't know that I know the specific day or time, but it really was a combination of all the factors. And as we were able to accumulate more and more information, the pure volume of it and the amount of time and work that we place into it, that's ultimately what got us comfortable with him.
Tony? Okay, the 5-month odyssey takes us back to late October, early November. And Kevin, I want you to answer this too. So did you make a decision you were going to replace Baker Mayfield at that point?
No, it's a good question, Tony. So that's typically the time of the year that we begin our planning for the next offseason. So usually once the trade deadline passes, you're building your free agency board, you're getting to late fall in terms of your draft process. So that is the time that you'll begin a lot of work on a lot of players. Obviously, given the complexity of Deshaun's situation at the time, there was going to be additional work needed to make sure to vet it as thoroughly as possible. So at that time, we had made no specific decisions, really probably anywhere on the roster, but we were trying to make sure that we obviously had enough time to do as much work as we could.
Isn't there a subconscious decision made that we need to be better at that position?
No, I mean, I think I've mentioned to you guys before that, like every offseason, we do go and look at player availability or look at the roster as if we have an expansion team. Certainly as we got more involved into the research process, we did think through a number of different possibilities, but I can't say that there was a specific decision made at that time.
Let's go Nate, then Jake, then Mary Kay.
Deshaun, why should you be believed instead of more than 20 women?
I can't speak on what people opinions are because everyone have their own opinions. But what I can continue to do is tell the truth, and that is I've never assaulted or disrespected or harassed any woman in my life. Like I said before, I was raised differently. That's not my DNA. That's not my culture. That's not me as a person, and that's not how I was raised. And for me, just to continue to push forward and show people that who I really am. And a lot of people haven't met me before. A lot of people haven't spoke to me before. A lot of people haven't been in the same environment as me before. And I want to continue to open that up and be able to have people, come to me and be able to talk to me about, certain things.
Will you try to settle the 22 civil suits?
That's not my intent. My intent is to continue to clear my name as much as possible, and that's what I'm focused on.
Jake?
Yeah, Andrew, can you explain why you structured the contract in a way in which that if Watson is suspended by the NFL this season, he's going to lose less than $60,000 per game loss out of a contract that's going to pay him $230 million guaranteed?
Yeah, Jake, it's a appreciate the question, and I think you guys know I typically don't talk about contracts in this setting. I actually will make a departure from that because I do think a little bit of context is important. So a couple things. Number one, we certainly understand the optics of it. I think for us, after we got comfortable with Deshaun, the contract was really a football decision. The things that were important to us from a club perspective were to have another year, have Deshaun under contract for another year, and to have it structured in a manner that would allow us, maximum flexibility to execute the rest of our off-season plan. And that's specifically true as we really kind of facilitate the next steps with Baker and Baker's contracts, on our cap. And I think probably the other thing to mention is that structure, Jake, is very similar to a lot of the large contracts that we already have. A lot of the larger player contracts that we already have on the books.
Do you think the NFL needs to take a look at their enforcement if it can be circumvented so easily?
I'm sorry?
The NFL take a look at the way that they enforce, given that it can be circumvented so easily in terms of financial penalty.
I that's not something that I can speak to. That's probably a better question for the league. I can just talk through really the club considerations from our perspective.
So one more, if Deshaun was coming to Cleveland, as he just said, before you even talked about the contract, why give him a new contract that not only was new, but the richest in NFL history for a single contract in terms of guaranteed money by a full $80 million.
So, again, for us, like getting an additional year of control was very important for us, Jake.
Let's go Mary Kay, Jeff, Scott.
Deshaun, I'm wondering, kind of specifically, what kind of work are you willing to do both in the community and personally to either atone for anything if you feel like you have to do that, or just to make sure that you are never accused of anything like this going forward? And I mean specifically, working with any, women's groups or, any other things in the community, sort of looking for specifics of what you plan to do.
Definitely. And I think, especially on the ending of that question, working with women groups, I think it has to be something that I have to earn that trust, to be honest. I have to earn that trust back into the community so I can step out. I don't want to just jump out and make it seem like I'm not doing it. I'm just doing it just to try to clear my name. I've always been a community leader with Habitat for Humanity, with Kids for Cancer, because my mom had tongue cancer. With education, giving back to schools, and then also with just, all types of charity work around the community of building communities, building housing and things. So, I'm going to work with this organization and my team to the perfect opportunity for us to come out and just help, because I've always been that type of person. That's how I was raised, and that's why I continue to say I'm a servant leader, because I wrote a book on it. That's how I was before any of these allegations. But at the same time, I know, and I'm not naive to the point that I have to earn that trust back from the community and people outside that's looking, at these allegations and haven't spoke to me before. So that's my goal, is to be able to earn that trust and keep pushing for it.
That's Deshaun Watson's introductory press conference as a member of the Cleveland Browns. There's a lot there. 615-737-1045. Mike Sando of The Athletic, one of the best and most credible NFL reporters we have. He's going to join us. We're going to talk about this thing coming up next.
The Buck Reising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com.
Welcome back. This Deshaun Watson press conference is still ongoing. We carried, as much as we could there for you in the first segment. Mike Sando of The Athletic is going to join us, and we'll react to a lot of this with him. As I said, Andrew Berry, the general manager, Deshaun Watson, and Kevin Stefanski are still fielding questions at the podium. And outside of a softball BS first question, I think the Cleveland media is doing an exceptional job at trying to get to the bottom of how it is that they came about making this decision. A couple of notes on this. The second, because JV, there's a lot of questions, and again, you guys have to understand that the whole, and I understand that not everybody listens to the radio show every day, every minute, every hour. Like, I totally understand. Now, we had a bit of a deal on this yesterday. I said to you, I'm going to talk about this as much as I am qualified to talk about this, which of course has no legal standing. So if you have legal questions for me on this, I'm not going to be able to give you the kind of thing that you're looking for. But the initial takeaway from this is he's saying, Deshaun Watson is, that the contract had nothing to do with his decision to go to the Browns. I don't know Deshaun Watson. I've never had a conversation with him. I have been around him only in the sense that I've been physically on the same football field as him when he was going through pregame warmups every time he played here in Tennessee. Other than that, I don't know this person. But it is difficult for me to process the idea, understanding that I'm not somebody who has the option to take a $230 million contract. Maybe one day. Shout out Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, but not today. I don't know what somebody who makes that kind of money generational wealth already, if they really do have it in them to say that $230 million guaranteed does not factor into their decision-making. But I do find that difficult to process. I'm not saying that he's being dishonest. I'm doing my best to navigate around this thing, but I will tell you what I found interesting that came out of his mouth. And I know that people are going to start like it took 2 seconds for people to start making jokes about the idea that he just said he wanted to be hands-on in the community just as he was in Houston, which, of course, is not what he meant to say. But my larger issue, again, it doesn't come back to Deshaun for me, even though Deshaun is at the center of this. It comes back to Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski and the ownership, who, by the way, who's not at the press conference today? The people that own the football team. Jimmy Haslam, D. Haslam, the people whose name was signed on the statement. They'll sign the statement. They won't show up to the press conference, or at least they won't publicly field questions. Why? Because the billionaires don't have to field questions for all the little pissant reporters that want to push them on why they made this decision the way that they made this decision. There is, and I find this tweet from Andrew Brandt really telling. Those of you who have followed football for a long time know Andrew Brandt as the former agent and then general manager of the Green Bay Packers, who has now been working in the media for several years. Andrew Brandt tweeted this during the press conference, and it's still running on SportsCenter. The Browns PR staff is working hard, but the public is smarter than this. #Watson. They're saying that their lawyers advised against speaking to any of the victims or the attorney for the alleged victims of Deshaun Watson. My immediate question is, why are they telling you not to speak to the alleged victims or the attorney for the alleged victims if they are not criminal?
But we don't know if the private investigators did or did not speak to the alleged victims. That is one thing that Andrew Berry would not say definitively.
They're not, the things that they're not saying definitively and the things that they don't have answers to definitively or things that they're not going to disclose definitively are because they don't want to know the answer to the questions that the reporters are asking them, because they want the football player to throw touchdown passes in 2022. I know I keep coming back to that point, and I know many of you are going to be tired of this. I hope that you are glad, most of you, the majority of you, I'm sure there are people out there who are upset with this idea that we're carrying the Deshaun Watson press conference, or that we did. But I think it is important for these conversations to be had publicly and then dissected with great intensity, because the conversation around this is not going away. Every time he takes the football field, it needs to Lucas, let me ask you this. All right, as somebody who does play-by-play and has, aspirations to be, the next Jim Nantz or whatever, would you mention this on a broadcast having to do with Deshaun Watson? Because I don't know that that's a given, but I'm curious to know as to the moralities of the play-by-play. Does this come up in a game?
How can it not?
Very easily, because the league is. I've heard Kevin Harlan talk publicly about the idea that he was nervous about, the streaker on the field. The guy is drunk. The whole bit that Kevin Harlan has done, or the cat on the field in the New York Giants stadium where he's doing play-by-play of the cat. And he said publicly in interviews that he felt he didn't know if the league would like that or not. It's very easy to discourage these things. So when you say, how could it not, I would say to you very easily. And I know, and I'm asking you a tough question because you're not working for a network yet. Hopefully one day. But I'm curious to know how this is going to be handled. Is this just going to be swept under the rug once the games start up? Is this just going to be, a talking point that was had in, what is it today, March the 25th, that will evaporate here soon after because football governs all? The football, not the things around the football that make football feel kind of icky sometimes. 615-737-1045. You can jump in on the conversation if you like. Terry is in Murfreesboro, wants to chime in. Hello, Terry.
Hi, Mr. Reising. What a load of, what word can we use?
Not the one you want to use, Terry. Please don't.
Okay, I won't. I won't cost you a fine.
Thank you much.
Here's the thing. First of all, he needs some PR help, as does the gentleman who spoke at length, because we counted over 70 times. He said, I listened to you, and in your monologues, I never hear the word because, quite frankly, you're speaking the truth, and you feel like, what you're saying is, I don't know, it was just bad from the beginning to the end. And also someone needs to explain to him, hands-on is probably a poor choice of words.
I think he would agree with you. I'm sure that he felt that in real time, because I know all of us watching did. Terry, as a female football fan, how does this whole situation hit you? Because obviously we have a blind spot as a show. We don't. Dawn Davenport is the only on-air female talent that we have, and I can't call Dawn every time I've got issues that I cannot run through my own prism. How has this hit you?
Huge football fan. Love it. Absolutely adore it. And please don't think that I am discounting that there are accusations made that sometimes aren't true, sometimes are true. People should be able to come forth and tell their story and tell what happened. I have a problem with 22 people coming forward, though. This isn't a he said, she said. This is a she's said, he said.
Yeah.
So my question is, I could never, ever watch a Browns game again and root for them, because I feel like they've lost all credibility. And I know people are going to rip me up about this and say, you don't know and all this. First of all, if you didn't speak to any of the people or any of the ladies, then what was your due diligence? How deep could you dive? What did you do? How did you?
As deep as it takes to be able to play him, Terry, I think is the answer to that question.
And when this will completely be swept under the rug and never to be talked about again, as soon as he begins to win football games.
Yep.
And that's the sad part. Anyway, I'll shut up now. Thanks for listening.
No, listen, Terry, I'm hugely appreciative of the call. As long as you never call me Mr. Reising again, that's the only thing that I would request.
Enjoy your show.
Thank you very much. Terry in Murfreesboro with some good context. Well, let me say this. I say literally every other sentence, so Terry is being far too kind as far as my delivery is concerned. But this situation is going to involve quite a good deal of insight and analysis. Everything that comes out of any of their mouths and anything that they write on social media, public statements, or otherwise is going to be dissected in great detail, as it should. As it should. My feeling on this is I am not in a position, I have not myself, I'm speaking personally, all right? Because, I know that this is our show. Well, this is really your show. I'm just the idiot in front of the microphone trying my best to articulate the things that you guys care about in sports, and occasionally something wanders into the playground the way that this Deshaun Watson thing does, and then we have to be, we are required to be serious and handle this with the appropriate level of discourse. My feeling on this initially is that I am left, even though more was said, and the fact that they opened it up to questions in a way that I was skeptical that they might, my initial feeling on this is that this is going to continue to be something that hovers over everything they do. And in fact, I hope that that is the case. I really do. People are bringing up, for example, people in the YouTube chat says it's crazy how Watson wasn't charged, but Big Ben did what he did and people swept it under the rug. Think about the different time that we're living in. Big Ben was 2009? This is pre-Me Too, for God's sakes. Lucas is yelling at me, and rightfully so. We're going to go to commercial. We're going to take your phone calls on this because I want to give myself and you guys some time to react to this. So we'll do that. That's next. All right, no polls, straight to the phones. You guys want to talk about Deshaun Watson's press conference? We're going to do it. So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to listen. 615-737-1045. You guys have been waiting patiently. Let's start things off with Denise in Nashville, who wants to chime in on what she just heard. Hello, Denise.
Hey, Buck. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
Good, good. I have to gather my thoughts first because I listen to you all almost every day, and I don't ever call in. But for this, I had to call in. I'm a Titans fan. I'm a season ticket holder. I'm a part of lots of online conversations regarding our team. And when this first came up about Deshaun Watson, you know, we have our fans who say, oh, yeah, let's go get him or whatever.
Yes, ma'am.
And I chimed in there, and I was like, there's no way Miss Amy would ever, because she has the perspective that the females have. And not only her, I believe in my heart Mike Vrabel has that same perspective, and our team is just made up differently. The Browns, not so much. And here's my question is, he got paid plenty of money last year to sit and not play.
Correct. They did not take away his salary. He was not placed on the commissioner exempt. They took the full cap hit, and he got paid.
Yes, he is not hurting financially. So why can't we wait and listen to 22 women? There's no such thing, no other place where anybody ever needed 22 massage therapists for anything. Anything. There is a red flag. There's smoke. And where there's smoke, there's fire. They need to be patient, and the Browns don't care. And let me tell you, karma is an MF. So that's okay that they did this. It's not going to work. It's going to backfire on them. Just sit back and watch it. I'll stop, hang up.
Denise, you're welcome to call us at any point, and thank you very, very much for calling the show today. Just to quickly to talk about her point really quickly, and then I'll go back to the phones because I know we're loaded. Here's what I'll say about what she said about Amy Adams Strunk and Mike Vrabel. I don't know that for certain. Like I'm not saying she's right. I'm not saying she's wrong. I'm just saying don't assign anything with definitiveness until your franchise is the one in this position, because just think about how Arthur Smith is a very reputable human being. I like Art personally, and I've gotten to know him over the course of the last couple of years. And you know who was up into the Watson thing until the very end? Arthur Smith. So I get your point, Denise. Truly, I do. And listen, why people won't listen to the women in this particular situation is because largely it would appear that football doesn't much care what women think, in my limited experience. But, you know, these are opinions for another day. Lo is in Nashville, wants to chime in. What up, Lo?
What up, Buck? How you doing?
I'm well, boss. What you got?
Man, I just feel like I understand this is a touchy situation, but you got to separate the player on the field to the person off the field. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of players that did worse things than he did, and that they done got past it, moved on. They respect it now. I just feel like that they shouldn't just jump. He was innocent till proven guilty, right?
Sure.
They say the Browns didn't do their due diligence. The legal system, I'm pretty sure they did theirs. They looked into it, and they didn't go along with charges. So I just feel like
criminal charges,
right,
but you are correct.
Right. Yes. And I feel like with the silver suits, you don't pay the silver suits. If you honestly feel like you didn't do anything, you do not pay the silver suits, because once you do, that's an admission to guilt.
Thanks for the call, Lo. He feels no guilt. In fact, this was we didn't carry the full press conference, but he closed it out by saying, quote, "I don't have any regrets." Deshaun Watson situation. Not a one regret. And then they had him pose with the Cleveland Browns jersey afterwards, which to me, the optics of that, just detestable. Forgive me, is it Janet or Jeanette in Hendersonville that wants to chime in? I apologize if I've screwed up the name.
It's Jeanette.
Hello, Jeanette.
Hi. I just have a couple of comments, and they've kind of been stated a couple of times by different people.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened to consequences? There are no consequences, whether they're in college and they come out of college and they come into the NFL. They're untouchable. In this world today, there are no consequences. If you can do what you want to do, if you're good, if you're great, it's all about the team. It's all about making money. And it shouldn't be all about that. If you hurt someone, regardless, that's what should matter. And I agree, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Well, Jeanette, to your point, and forgive my interruption, but I would say to you that it's very much emblematic of every other major corporation, no?
And that's where I'm headed, and that's where I don't understand. The NFL, there's no consequences, not just for Deshaun Watson, but for anyone, and that starts at the top. That starts at the top. And when the top doesn't, and they turn a blind eye to anything that a player does, and then the fans turn a blind eye as well, and that's the problem. The fans do as well.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
no. Listen, they're telling you, Jeanette, that this is not going to affect their bottom line. And I apologize. I know people have more to say. Our phone lines are loaded on this, but unfortunately, our time is wrapped up. Lucas, I almost feel like the music's got to get out of there. Sorry. I know that's what we do at the end of every show, but point being, our time here is done. If you want to talk to Blaine and Mickey about this, I can't guarantee you that this is where the direction that they were going to take their show today, but certainly there's going to be continued conversation throughout the course of the day. And I wish that I could spend more time talking about it with you, because this is a tough one. But we'll do it again on Monday, and certainly keep that same energy, because you know I will. See y'all. Have a great weekend.